have it, and then I'll come over to you. So.
Hello. So, good evening. You've made it very clear that the proposal is to have housing in the strategic gap. One of the other concerns, of course, though, is about traffic and transport. Now, I, as a resident of this area, can raise a concern around the traffic and transport implications of this. 1,100 houses is probably 2,000 cars. 2,000 cars leaving the area and 2,000 cars arriving at the area in the mornings and the evenings. But I'm in no position to judge whether or not that's acceptable to the authority. But as a resident, I will make that concern known, and I will say that, frankly, in my personal view, that's unacceptable. It's difficult enough getting on and off this part of the Gosport Peninsula as it stands at present. I'm sure this is going to make it 10 times worse. But my question would be, what is it that makes the judgment? Who do the councillors judge whether or not this is acceptable from a traffic building point of view?
Okay, thank you. It's a really good question. What happens is the borough councils, members of the planning committee, councillors, 9 of them, have to make that judgment, but they make it under a recommendation which comes from the planning officers. And the planning officers will be looking at a whole range of issues. Highways is a really important issue, and what they will do, they will take advice from the Highways Authority, which is Hampshire County Council. So there is a traffic model which is used, South Hampshire traffic model, into which the data will be fed, or has been fed possibly, for this application, and that will judge what the traffic impacts are likely to be, and it will also feed in what are the mitigations, if any, that the applicants are attempting to put in to say, well, you know, we've fixed it all because we've built a motorway that links, you know, the M27 down to this, and then the Highway Authority might say, oh yeah, fine, that's all right. You know, we tick the box, that's not going to affect anybody, or that there'll be very significant issues such as you raised. And what those county council engineers will do then is come up with a recommendation to Fareham, which will say we either recommend that this is okay or it's not okay, or what would have to be done in mitigation for it. You know, the Stubbington bypass, clearly that's a part of this application, but it's a bit. You know, and you can see that, you know, maybe there's about half of it there and half of it isn't. So you might argue that, you know, that's hardly providing a bypass, it's providing a bit of a bypass that feeds this development. So those are how the judgments will be made. They'll be made by engineers, but the decision will be made by your elected councillors. I think that's helpful. And if I might observe, I think what Hallam have probably spent the last 2 years doing is looking at all of the reasons that there would have been for refusal of the application that they've withdrawn today. And they've been working, which I suppose is what they would do, very, very hard to try and close down each and every one of them. Whether they can close down highways is going to be a judgment. But of course, the one that they can't close down is the use of a strategic countryside gap.